Hey, my love. So, this code is for you. If the way that you tend to deal with big, heavy emotions is by numbing or binging. And so, often when we think of binging, we think of food, but it can be anything from food to alcohol to smoking weed or cigarettes to going on shopping sprees to watching your favorite Netflix show on repeat, to scrolling on social media for hours and hours and hours. And so the thing about numbing or binging habits is that it's not the thing that you're doing that is bad or wrong. There's nothing wrong with having a glass of wine here and there, with smoking a joint every now and then, with eating chocolate or watching Netflix. That's not the issue. What is there for you to reflect on is the intention, right? So it's the reason why. What is the impulse that is pulling me towards scrolling on social media right now? What is the impulse that's pulling me to eat this whole bag of chips? What is the impulse that's pulling me to drink this bottle of wine? If the impulse is, for food, for example, because you're hungry, then there's nothing wrong with that. If the impulse to watch a TV episode is because, you're just relaxing and you love that particular episode and you watch one or two, there's nothing wrong with that. But when it becomes a numbing or a binging habit is when we're using that action to avoid feeling something that feels uncomfortable. So, when we're feeling a big, heavy emotion, when we're triggered or upset or jealous or really sad, and then we reach for a tub of ice cream, that's when we would classify that as a numbing or a binging habit. Or when we're feeling super, super angry and activated and you go smoke a bong. These are the times when you would refer to that as a numbing or binging habit. And I just want to share that I used to numb and binge with food for many, many, many years without really fully realizing it. And I had a lot of shame around it. There was so much shame in my system, in my mind, in my body around the fact that I would binge eat. And I would even struggle to tell people because I was so ashamed and embarrassed of it. So I just want to let you know that there is no shame. It's just a coping mechanism that you've developed. And there's nothing wrong with that. But throughout this course, you're going to learn all of the tools to shift that habit because the only reason that you do this, my love, if this is something that you struggle with, is because you haven't yet learned how to regulate your emotions. And that's exactly what this course is about. So that's perfect. Something that I noticed when I was in this habit of binging or numbing with food is that it would be this vicious cycle, right? Of like, I would be feeling something uncomfortable, which would cause me to numb or binge with food. And I would temporarily feel better because the eating took away that immediate emotion that I was feeling. But then very, very quickly, I'd go from feeling better after eating to feeling intense, immense shame, and then go down this self-berating spiral of like, why did you do that? What's wrong with you? How could you eat all of that food? You're disgusting, rah, rah, rah. And then you feel shit again, and then it just continues the vicious cycle, right? So something that is really, 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 really important in breaking the cycle is after you have done the numbing or binging habit, whatever that is for you, is to have incredible self compassion and acceptance, and to not go down that self berating shame spiral. Instead, to say, I love you and it's okay, and we'll choose differently next time. And that's why I created one of the meditations in this code is, I've forgotten the name right now, but I think it's called Binge Rehab. I called it. So do that meditation after you have numbed or binged to really find that beautiful self compassion, self forgiveness, and self acceptance, which will, I promise, break this cycle that you're currently in. So that's number one thing that is most important. The second is to really start to notice when you reach for the thing that you're using. And in that moment, when you reach for it, start to have a moment of awareness of why. Where is this impulse coming from? What is the emotion that I'm currently feeling that I'm wanting to numb or suppress or avoid? And just notice, oh, okay, this impulse is actually coming from this. It's coming from this feeling that feels icky and uncomfortable in my body, and I'm wanting to numb it by resorting to smoking, drinking, eating, shopping, social media scrolling, whatever it is for you. And so I already mentioned this a little bit, but why do we binge? Why do we do this? And this is something that I didn't understand when I was in that cycle, is why. So the reason, my love, as I already mentioned, the reason that you struggle with this habit of numbing or binging, whether it's shopping, Netflix, alcohol, wine, whatever it is because you haven't yet learned how to emotionally regulate, and so you're suppressing or trying to numb yourself from feeling something that feels really uncomfortable for you. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's grief. These are emotions that feel uncomfortable in our body, and so the default is often to not feel them. But unfortunately, what's happening when we're suppressing or numbing an emotion is that it's a form of self abandonment, because we're abandoning the part of ourselves that just needs to feel this emotion that it's feeling. So, therefore, the remedy is to allow yourself to go into that emotion and to feel it. And all of the other practices in this module are all around self-soothing, around how to allow yourself time and space to feel an emotion and how to release that emotion through the body with the emotional release practices that you've already seen in that video. So know that the reason that you numb or binge is because you're trying to avoid feeling something that feels uncomfortable, because you haven't yet learned how to process emotions and how to regulate your emotions. And that's what you will learn now using those emotional release practices and the self-soothing practices, is how to soothe yourself, how to regulate those emotions, and how to process them. And so once you start to use those tools, you'll notice that your tendency to reach towards your numbing or binging or suppressing coping mechanism, whatever that is for you, will start to diminish. But this module, this code, is specifically about helping you, supporting you even more through that process. So like I mentioned, if you do along this journey reach for whatever your vice is, whether that's shopping or Netflix or chocolate, when you do reach for it, and you have done the numbing binging thing, make sure you use that binge awareness meditation to really come home into that self-compassion, that self-forgiveness, and that self-acceptance. And there is a meditation in there as well called binge awareness. So this is specifically for food, if your vice is food. And this is to use when you're feeling that impulse to go and eat something from the cupboard, to go and eat your chocolate bar or your bag of chips or whatever it is. Listen to that meditation just before you do it, if you can catch yourself in the moment. If you can't, that's totally fine. Use the binge rehab meditation afterwards. And there's one more meditation in here for you as well, which is the mindful eating meditation. And that's on the other end of the spectrum. It's to assist you when you are eating your meals to be really present and mindful with every mouthful, to honor your meal as the beautiful, life-giving force that it is. And allowing yourself to be mindful when you do eat your meals will help you to stop binging as well, because when we binge, it's mindless. We're not aware of eating the thing, consuming the thing, whatever that is. And so that's another invitation from this video, is when you do your binging or your numbing habit, see if you can do it mindfully and indulge and enjoy every last second of it. I said this to one of my clients who wanted to quit smoking, and she'd been trying for years, and I said, stop trying to quit smoking. I'm not going to get you to quit smoking. I'm not going to get you to try to quit smoking. Next time you smoke a cigarette, you be fully present with that cigarette and you enjoy every single second of smoking that cigarette. Because what we're doing when we're numbing or binging is we're not present with the thing that we're doing. And that's when you can eat a whole block of chocolate without realizing, right? But if you are present with every single moment of eating that delicious piece of chocolate or smoking that cigarette or drinking every single sip of that wine or whatever it is, then you will do it less because you will receive from that moment more because you're doing it mindfully. You are present. So they're my few invitations from this code. The first was to stop the shame or self-berating cycle, to stop that vicious cycle. So when you do numb or binge, have that beautiful self-compassion and self-forgiveness and use that binge rehab meditation. The second was to notice the impulse. When you reach for your vice, why am I reaching for this? What emotion am I feeling? And how can I release it through an emotional release practice instead? If your vice is food, then use the binge awareness meditation right before you go and consume your food. Use the mindful eating meditation to start to eat mindfully, which is a beautiful, beautiful practice no matter where you're at on your journey. And the fifth is whatever your vice is from this moment, whenever you do it, if you do it, fully indulge and enjoy in every last second of it. Mwah! I love you, beautiful.